When we're younger, we tend to believe our strength will always be there, that if we just push harder, focus more, or tough it out, our body will respond. It always has. But somewhere after 60, something starts to shift, and it happens quietly. You're still you. You still love your family. You still want to feel good in your skin. But your body doesn't always meet you halfway anymore. I'm Dr. David Morgan, a Canadian urologist with over 35 years of experience walking beside men through every stage of life. And I can tell you this with certainty. What you're feeling isn't weakness. And it's not just aging. It's your body asking for something different, something smarter than what worked in the past. I've had men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s sit across from me, shoulders slumped, eyes tired, and say things like, "Doc, I don't know what's going on. I just don't have the energy," or "I love my wife, but I feel disconnected." Sometimes it's just a quiet confession. "I don't feel like a man anymore." And here's the part that always hits me hardest. Most of them have been silently carrying that feeling for years, not because they're weak, but because they think they're supposed to just accept it. They've decided somewhere along the way that they've had their time. But I don't believe that. And I hope after today, you won't either. Because the truth is, there are ways to feel stronger, more present, more connected to your body again, not through pills or extreme routines, but through small natural shifts in how you care for yourself. Sometimes it starts with the most basic habit of all, what you choose to eat each day. There's no magic fix, but there is a path, and often that path begins with understanding your body's true needs and honoring them with the right fuel. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 simple yet powerful strategies that most men over 60 have never heard of, but that could make a significant difference in your vitality, your sexual health, and your sense of manhood. If you've been feeling like your body isn't yours anymore, if you've started to wonder whether your best days are behind you, stay with me. You might be closer to a turning point than you realize. You know, after sitting with so many men over the years listening not just to symptoms, but to silence, I've come to believe something simple. The body doesn't always need louder solutions. Sometimes it just needs to be heard. And often the smallest daily choices, the things we barely notice, can become the quiet allies that help restore what time has worn down. Not overnight, not like flipping a switch, but gently, gradually, like a light coming back on. That's why in this next part, I want to take you into something deceptively simple yet deeply powerful. 3 humble nuts that most men overlook, but that can make a real difference in circulation, hormonal health, and the feeling of being fully alive again. And if this message is resonating with you even just a little, I'd be grateful if you gave this video a like, maybe shared it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to stay connected. This space is here for you. Let's keep going. Let's start with something deceptively simple. A small, wrinkled nut that most people walk right past at the grocery store without a second thought. But for the men I work with, especially those over 60, it's become one of the most powerful allies in restoring blood flow and sexual vitality. I remember a gentleman named Tom, 68, retired firefighter, salt and pepper hair, and a soft-spoken way of talking. He came into my office one afternoon and sat down slowly. He looked at me and said, "Doc, I don't know how to explain it. I still want to be with my wife, but my body just doesn't cooperate anymore." I hear that more often than you might think, and what most men don't realize is that before the desire fades, circulation usually goes first. See, erections and energy in general depend heavily on the quality of your blood flow, and that's where this particular nut comes in. It's incredibly rich in L-arginine, a natural amino acid that your body uses to produce nitric oxide, the key molecule that helps blood vessels relax and widen. That widening allows more blood to flow, especially to the areas where you need it most. When you were younger, your body produced nitric oxide easily, but after 60, that ability drops sometimes sharply. This nut acts like a natural assistant, helping your blood vessels stay open, elastic, and responsive. It's also high in omega-3 fatty acids, which help reduce inflammation and support heart health. 2 things that directly impact your ability to perform and feel clear-headed. When Tom began adding a small handful of these nuts to his dinner each evening, just a quiet, consistent habit, things slowly started to shift. Within a couple of weeks, he told me his morning erections were stronger, he had more energy during the day, And perhaps most importantly, he no longer felt like he was fading out of his own body. It wasn't magic. It was biology supported the right way. But circulation is only the beginning. Because even with good blood flow, many men struggle with something they're often too embarrassed to bring up even in a doctor's office. Staying power, firmness, the ability to be fully present during intimacy, not just mentally but physically. And that's exactly where the second nut comes into play. Most people think of it as just a snack, something you toss in a bowl at parties. But in one fascinating clinical study out of Turkey, men who added this nut to their daily routine for just 3 weeks reported significant improvements in erection firmness, duration, and overall satisfaction, all without the use of medication. How does it work? Well, much like the first nut, this one also contains L-arginine, supporting nitric oxide production and blood flow. But it doesn't stop there. It's packed with plant sterols, antioxidants, and healthy fats that promote vascular health, reduce cholesterol, and even support nerve function, which becomes increasingly important as we age. One of my patients, Richard, 72, widowed, thoughtful, came to me feeling disconnected from his body. He told me, "I feel desire, but there's a delay. Like my body's not getting the message." After introducing this nut into his midday routine, Richard noticed a quiet but powerful shift. He began waking up with stronger erections. He felt more spontaneous desire, not forced, not manufactured. And most importantly, he told me, "It feels like something inside me turned back on." Now, if you've been feeling disconnected, if you've been quietly wondering whether things are just slowing down for good, the truth is, your body may just need a nudge in the right direction. But we're not done yet. Because while circulation and performance matter, neither will last without a solid hormonal foundation. And that's where the third nut, perhaps the most underrated of them all, comes in. This one's not as common. You won't find it in every kitchen. But it's incredibly rich in selenium, a trace mineral that plays a crucial role in testosterone production, sperm health, and even prostate protection. Unlike many nutrients, your body can't make selenium, it must come from your diet. And unfortunately, most men over 60 aren't getting nearly enough. Let me tell you about Gary. Gary was 66, still active, still sharp, but something felt off. He said, "I've got no drive, no fire. I'm eating well. I walk every day, but I feel flat." We checked his testosterone. It wasn't critically low, but it had dipped. And so I suggested one simple addition. One of these nuts every morning. Just one. Within a few weeks, Gary started reporting changes, subtle at first. Better sleep, less brain fog, more clarity. And then one day he smiled and said, "I feel like myself again." That's the power of working with your biology, not against it. Because when you support blood flow, when you nurture performance, and when you restore your hormonal foundation, you begin to feel whole again, more grounded, more confident, more connected to yourself and the people you love. Now you might be wondering, what happens when you bring all three of these nuts together into one simple daily habit? That's where things get even more interesting, because these foods don't just work individually, they work in harmony. And in the next section, you'll show you why combining them could be the missing piece that changes everything. So stay with me. You'll want to hear this. One of the patterns I've noticed after 3.5 decades working with older men is this. The body doesn't respond to isolated fixes the way it used to. When we're younger, we can make one change, cut out sugar, take a supplement, start jogging, and the effects show up quickly. But after 60, the body becomes more like an orchestra. You don't get harmony from one instrument. You need the right ones, playing together. That's exactly what I've seen when men begin combining the three natural foods we just discussed. On their own, each one has benefits: blood flow, stamina, hormone balance. But when taken together, something shifts. They start working synergistically, meaning their effects build on and enhance each other in ways the body truly feels. Why does this matter? Because male sexual health, real, lasting, satisfying sexual health, isn't just about one system. It's not just blood vessels. It's not just testosterone. It's not just desire. It's all of it, interconnected, dependent on one another. Let me explain in simple terms. When circulation improves, oxygen and nutrients reach the pelvic tissues more easily. That makes it easier for nerves to fire and erections to happen. But circulation alone isn't enough. Without hormonal support, the signal from the brain to the body isn't as strong. Testosterone acts like a bridge between mind and body, and unless inflammation is kept in check through healthy fats and antioxidant support, even good hormones and good blood flow can't work efficiently. That's why the combination matters. One opens the highway, one fuels the engine, one fine-tunes the electrical system. I had a patient named Dan, 71 years old, retired engineer. He was meticulous, thoughtful, and very skeptical of natural remedies. Over the years, he had tried each nut individually. A handful of this here, a few weeks of that there. But nothing stuck. Nothing seemed to help. He told me, "Doc, I feel like I've checked every box, and I still don't feel like myself." So I asked him one thing. Don't try harder. Try smarter. For the next 21 days, take all three, one in the morning, one midday, one in the evening, and do nothing else. No new supplements. No new routines. Just three natural tools working together. When Dan came back a month later, he looked lighter. Not just physically, but emotionally. He said, "I don't know if it's coincidence, but I feel more grounded. My energy in the mornings is better, and my wife says I'm more present." That last word, present, stayed with me, because that's what this is really about. It's not about chasing performance. It's about restoring presence in your body, in your relationship, in your life. And often it doesn't require doing more. It just means doing the right things consistently. But of course, even the best combination can be quietly undone. There's one common mistake I see far too often, and it's something most men don't even realize they're doing every single day. Let's talk about that next. There's a kind of giving up I see far too often, and most of the time, it doesn't look like surrender. It's quiet, gradual, almost invisible. A shrug of the shoulders, a little less effort, a silent agreement that this is just how it is now. I call it resignation without recognition, and it's the number one thing that gets in the way of real progress. See, by the time most men walk into my office in their 60s or 70s, they've already stopped believing that things can get better. Not because they're lazy, not because they've given up completely, but because they've slowly come to accept the idea that aging means decline, and that decline is inevitable, irreversible, and unworthy of effort. But here's what many don't realize. That mindset, that quiet surrender, is more harmful to your health than aging itself. I don't say that lightly. When a man believes he's past his prime, his brain begins to reduce the signals that stimulate testosterone. Stress levels quietly increase. Blood pressure rises. Blood flow diminishes not just from physical factors, but from a nervous system that's tuned toward withdrawal rather than engagement. And over time, that internal story, "I'm done," becomes a self-fulfilling reality. I remember one man in particular, Bill. He was 69, warm-hearted, retired school principal. He came to see me not because of a medical crisis, but because, as he put it, "I think I'm disappearing, Doc. I'm here, but I'm not really here." He was in pain. He wasn't ill. But he'd stopped trying, stopped stretching, stopped believing anything would change. What we worked on together wasn't just nutritional or physical, it was mental posture. Instead of asking, "Can I get back to who I was at 40?" we asked, "What part of me is still alive, still capable, still worthy of care?" He began walking again. He called an old friend. He started choosing foods that nourished, not just filled. And perhaps most importantly, he began showing up for his own life, not because he thought he'd reverse time, but because he remembered that he still mattered. Within a month, the changes were noticeable. His posture improved, his voice had energy, and he looked at me one day and said, "I feel like I've stopped drifting." Look, you don't need to be 30 again. You don't need six-pack abs or performance like a teenager, but you do deserve to feel connected to your body, your partner, and your life. And that connection doesn't start with supplements or routines. It starts with a choice to no longer abandon yourself. So if part of you has been quiet for too long, if you've been going through the motions, telling yourself this is just how it is now, let me gently challenge that. There is a way back, not to the past, but to presence. And it begins with something so simple, so steady, that you can start it today. So how do you begin again in a natural, consistent, and doable way? Let me show you. Right now. I know how overwhelming it can feel. You're told to take this supplement, avoid that food, follow this routine, cut out that habit, and before long, your kitchen looks like a pharmacy. Your meals feel like a checklist, and your motivation quietly fades. I've seen it again and again. So here's my philosophy born from over 35 years of listening to real men with real lives and real challenges. You don't need to do more. You just need to do what works and do it consistently. That's why I often guide my patients toward what I call a daily vitality routine. It's not complicated, it won't cost you hours or money, and it can be done in less than 3 minutes a day. Here's how it works. Step 1. Morning, 1 Brazil nut after brushing your teeth. After you finish brushing your teeth, simply reach for 1 Brazil nut. That's it, just one. It's rich in selenium, a trace mineral that quietly supports testosterone, mood, and prostate health. Doing this first thing in the morning gives your body the hormonal support it needs to start the day grounded, focused, and energized. You can keep a small jar of Brazil nuts right by your toothbrush, no excuses, no forgetting. Step 2. Midday, a handful of pistachios. After lunch, this is your midday boost. A small handful of unsalted pistachios, about 20 to 25 nuts right after lunch. They help stabilize energy, support healthy blood sugar levels, and keep circulation flowing steadily through the afternoon hours. I often suggest placing a container of pistachios in your kitchen, or even in your desk drawer somewhere. You'll see it and remember. Step 3. Evening. A handful of walnuts about an hour before bed. As your day winds down, give your body what it needs to rest and recover. A modest handful of walnuts in the evening supports overnight circulation, calms inflammation, and gently prepares your body for repair while you sleep. Some men keep a small dish by their bedside or next to their evening book or glass of water. Why spread them out this way? Because your body isn't static. Your needs shift throughout the day. You need hormonal support in the morning, energy and blood flow during the day, and repair at night. By aligning each nut with the body's natural rhythm, you're not forcing change, you're working with how you were designed to function. And that's the beauty of this approach. You're not reinventing your life, you're not chasing results. You're simply nourishing your body at the right time, in the right way, with what it already knows how to use. And over time, the body responds. Not instantly, but steadily, deeply. So if you've ever felt like things are slipping through your fingers, if you've been asking, where do I even start? This is it. 1 nut in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the evening, 3 minutes a day. 3 quiet signals to your body that you still care. And sometimes that's all it takes to begin feeling like yourself again. If you've stayed with me this far, I want to thank you not just for your time, but for your presence. Because it takes courage to listen to a message like this. Not because the words are complicated, but because sometimes the hardest thing is to admit that we miss feeling like ourselves. I've met many men over the years, strong, generous, deeply loving, who quietly carry the weight of feeling like something important is slipping away. Not just energy, not just desire, but identity, a sense of being connected to the body they've lived in for decades. And I want to say this clearly. There is nothing weak about wanting to feel whole again. There is nothing selfish about wanting to feel strong, desired, or alive. Taking care of yourself after 60 isn't about fighting age. It's about choosing to show up each day with a little more awareness, a little more respect, and a lot more kindness toward the body that has carried you this far. What we talked about today wasn't a miracle. It was something far more powerful. 3 small, natural actions, done with intention, done with care, and when done consistently, they can help reawaken a part of you that may have gone quiet, but was never gone. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, but you do deserve to feel like yourself again. Clearer, more connected, more present in your own life. So if something in this message spoke to you, even if just one part, I invite you to take that first small step. And if you feel comfortable, leave a comment below and tell me, which part of this routine will you begin with? Or simply type one word that describes how you feel right now after hearing all of this. I read every comment and I take them to heart. If this video gave you something, a new insight, a bit of hope, or a quiet sense that you're not alone, feel free to give it a like. Share it with someone you care about. And if you'd like to be part of more conversations like this, subscribe to the channel. I'd be honored to keep walking this journey with you. Take care of yourself. You're still here. You still matter. And there's still so much life left to feel. Until next time, I'm Dr. David Morgan.